Majora's Mask, Chapter 75. The Boy and His Fairy. Abruptly, the splitting stone and deafening roar came to a stop. Link pushed open the clock tower door's warm wood instead. He instinctively raised a hand to block out the early morning sun. All was quiet. The boy barely heard the clock tower turning behind him, but the smell of its burnt ruins still filled his nostrils. The carpenters, Deku Scrub, and postman looked across the plaza, concerned at his haggard appearance. The lingering touch of Anju and Kafei's fingers had only just faded from his shoulders. Link, aware of Tattle as she twinkled by his side, looked fearfully at the postbox. A boy with purple hair and a fox mask slipped a letter inside. The child noticed the staring older boy and fairy, and then he turned on his heels and sprinted back to the laundry pool. Link remained standing in place, his great fairy sword and mirror shield strapped to his back, bag over his shoulder, and green hat and tunic stained with blood. One eye was blackened, an inflamed cut was ripped open on his cheek, but his blue eyes were wide and dark. "It didn't work," Link said hoarsely. The impossible weight of that truth already settled on his shoulders. He stared at the spot where the cursed boy named Kafei had been seconds ago. When guards began approaching them, Link solemnly took the hint and left the clock tower doors. The guards did not pursue the obviously injured stranger as he rounded the clock tower and took the stairs to East Clocktown. They stopped just short of its center, and the stalls, villagers, and shop owners now stood over what had just once been ruins. The eastern gate guard was no longer a mangled pile of flesh. He manned his post proudly, unaware of his terrible fate in another cycle. Link merely stood there, taking it in. Tattle's silence beside him somehow made it worse. "Are you going to say anything?" he asked.
"No,"
she said.
"You keep trying to save everyone, but the moon just kills them every time anyway. There's nothing I can say to make that better."
She paused.
"But you did reunite them, no matter how briefly. Maybe that matters."
Link had played the Song of Healing instinctively when they exchanged masks, and he'd rid Kafei of his child curse. The sun and moon masks had joined together into the couple's mask. After those two miracles, Anju had believed Link was his savior. Her eyes had shone with hope, finally bringing herself to believe she could escape death with her lover. She'd looked at him the same way when she lay dying in the South Clocktown Plaza so many cycles ago. "I hope so," was all Link could manage.
"Maybe we can try to reunite them again?"
Tattle said.
"This time, Sakan wouldn't have the Redead mask, and there wouldn't be a murder to complicate things. Maybe we could convince Kafei not to go after Sakan, and then we could really bring them into the future and—"
"No," Link said. The fairy silently agreed, as if her suggestion had never been a true option. I'm not cheapening the Anju and Kafei of last cycle," Link said. "And even without Sakan, it would just end up getting complicated again. Tattle, I think there's only one thing left for us to do." He could hear the clock tower turning even then. It hovered over the entire village, a masterful work of architecture that counted down the remaining 72 hours. The moon was further above it still, waiting. Amidst the shock that still overwhelmed Link, one small, sharp voice slipped its way back in. Fear. "The Redead mask is nothing compared to Majora." He knew the demon would not simply shatter against a wall, and its wounds could not be healed by a blue potion.
"Let's just check into the hotel room,"
Tattle stammered.
"I think we need to sit down."
Link winced. Anju. She would be waiting behind the desk once again with no recollection of his existence. He saw Tattle jump with the same realization.
"Actually, the hotel's not even open right now, is it?"
she said, clearly realizing that neither of them could handle that just then.
"Maybe there's something else we could do."
The single stray fairy left his side. She had been far less entertaining than Stone Tower's 3 golden ones. The Great Fairy's shrine was pristine, untainted by the corruption he brought 4 cycles ago. He stood in the pool's shallow end, admiring the familiar white stone that enclosed the hidden spring. The pristine, clear water reflected a group of stray fairies whose lost sibling finally rejoined them. After their frantic reunion, a much larger fairy burst free from their collective sphere. Link had seen her twice before. Her hair was as orange as always, and her sparsely clothed body lay on an invisible table. She smiled down at the hero and fairy.
"Oh, Tattle, and you, kind young one," she said. "Thank you for returning my broken and shattered body to normal. I am the Great Fairy of Magic. For now, this is all I can offer you. Allow me to ease your weariness as my token of gratitude."
She opened her arms, but Link didn't step forward. "You don't mind healing me?" he asked. Last time, she'd refused because of dark magic in his scar. This great fairy had almost died because of him. Link may have temporarily won the battle against the darkness within him, but it was still there. "Won't I corrupt your fountain?" The great fairy's expression softened into a smile.
"Young hero, the light within you has grown much stronger, beyond the powers at war in your scar. Dark magic is that most powerful manifestation of ignorance, hatred, anger, and despair, and you have conquered those adversaries no matter the sadness you harbor. These forces are manifestations of the battle you've always waged in your own heart, amplified by relics of gods and demons. No matter what terrible circumstances corrupt our souls and rob us of peace, there is always love to be found. The great fairy's sword on your back is proof that you are a true warrior of that light. You are welcome in my fountain, and I will heal your wounds, if that is what you desire."
Link remembered Anju and Cafe embracing one another in the hotel room. They'd been prepared to face the dawn together. Did acts of love like that foster light magic? Was their brief reunion enough to counteract the fire and destruction that snuffed them out?
I have met you before,"
Anju had said.
What a familiar scent. Long ago. Yes, we were still young. We made a promise, didn't we? The masks of the sun and the moon. We were to exchange them on the day of the carnival. Time.
Link remembered tears shining in her eyes as Cafe had presented his own mask.
Anju, I'm sorry I'm late.
Their time in Termina had been filled with acts of kindness inevitably crushed by the moon. The Grey Witch had said those good deeds mattered, and now the Great Fairy did too. Maybe they were right. "I want to believe that," Link said. He wasn't sure that he did yet in his heart.
"True belief takes time," the fairy said. "It is our duty as great fairies to offer our wisdom, free of pride and expectation."
"Thank you for healing me in the meantime," Link said. His face hurt badly, and he looked like he'd been through a cheese grater yet again, covered in bruises, gashes, and dirt.
"Very well. Allow me to ease your weariness as a token of my gratitude."
Link stepped forward and closed his eyes, while the Great Fairy cupped her hands to cast a spell. Orange light spiraled from the ceiling and surrounded him, lifting Link out of the water. Soothing droplets of water fell from his damaged skin back to the pool as the magic enveloped him. "Oh, finally," he thought. The cut on his cheek was the first to burn with a deep, soothing magic. The bruises on his face followed, along with the torn muscles in his legs. His entire body radiated with light. Then it reached his chest. A strong maelstrom of light still overpowered the deep, cold stone of hardened darkness. The darkness remained trapped, even as the Great Fairy erased the mushroom's suppressant. He felt warm power radiate through his body, joining the orange lights and escaping the confines of his scar. When Link's eyes opened, they were glowing white. The blonde in his hair faded too, and his green tunic became gray. He was the fierce deity, floating in place as his injuries mended. He smiled, content. The fairy spell gently lay fierce deity Link back into the water. Link's eyes, hair, and clothes returned to their normal tints. The magic in his scar was back. His wounds no longer festered, and he could tap into the fierce deity at will. "We have our weapon against Majora again," he thought. The dark bruise pulsed a final time, though, reminding him that it would always come with a terrible risk. "Those who champion the light must fight together," the great fairy said. "May all that is worth protecting in this world lead your blade to victory." The sprite thrust her arms skyward, and she laughed, and she vanished into a final flash of light.
That went so much better than last time,
Tattle said. "Yeah," he said. His smile faded when a new feeling settled over him, something disturbing, grave and eternal. He couldn't quite put a name to it. The end is here, he realized. Its weight was oppressive in the absence of last cycle's battles.
You okay?
Tattle asked. "Yeah," he said. "I'm just..." He never found the right word. "I'm just tired. We should get some sleep." He felt relief as he stepped down from the sword's purple hilt. Sunlight reflected off the smooth, sleek blade of the Master Sword. Link had rid himself of the great weapon's burden by finally driving it into its pedestal. The whole room glowed with the shared holiness of the sages, Triforce, and goddesses. Only the Temple of Time's great domed ceiling was shrouded in darkness. The many windows high along the walls directed sunlight to the raised platform and its staircase. The entire sanctuary's purpose was to hold this one weapon, and yet still, its grandeur did not do the Master Sword justice. It was such a small thing in this colossal church, yet it held the power to banish unimaginable horror. Link turned to the door of time. It was wide open, though he knew it wouldn't be that way for much longer. He could hear the spiritual stones radiating power as they rotated in place. "It's done," Link thought. "I defeated the King of Evil across all time. All that's left is to seal the doors and make sure he never comes out." There was a soft twinkling at his side. "Navi?" Instead, he found Zelda. Her blonde hair fell over her shoulders, and her blue eyes never wavered from his. She was on the step just below his, hands clasped together. "Zelda," Link said, smiling. "I didn't expect to see you here." "What about the others?" she asked. Suddenly, the masked salesman stood beside Zelda. His red hair was short and neat, and his dark eyes hovered over a wide smile. Next to him was a witch with a blue gem encrusted in her forehead, Kotake. As he went further down the line, he saw Anju, an adult Cafe, the Skull Kid, and Epona, Captain Vyson, Darmani, and Mikau. To complete the circle, there were 3 balls of light, 2 white and 1 purple. Tail, Tattle, and Navi. They all surrounded him on the platform a tier just below his own. Dread flowered in his chest. "You all died," he realized. Zelda extended her hand for him to take. "The battle isn't over yet." "I never wanted any of you to die," Link said, stepping back toward the sword. "I tried to save you, I promise." "Your broken promise means nothing to us, Link," Zelda said. She retracted her hand. "You sheathed your sword prematurely." "Don't you understand?" The masked salesman was crying. "Me and the demon are bound by fate. Don't you know what that means?" "I'm sorry," Link said absently. He could think of nothing else. "I'm sorry."
Link!
When he tried to follow the voice, he found Tattle and Navi blurred together.
You have to get up easier!
She spun to the masked salesman.
You promised you wouldn't hurt him, you liar! Get
not him I'm worried about hurting," the masked salesman said. "A demon will make me kill her again, I know it." Heat pressed upon his back. Link looked up to see one of the sanctuary windows glowing with fire. His next instinct was to warn Zelda, but her eyes were purple now. "Your time is up, child." The possessed Zelda smiled. "Majora is here to undo your work. When this world turns to ash, your good deeds will join the scores of dead at your feet." When her hand reached out this time, she grabbed his wrist and pulled. Link fell into the darkness. He shrieked, trying to pull himself away, but the abyss was absolute. It stole his breath and stifled his heart. Death was finally here to claim him, too. "You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you?" Link opened his eyes. The knife chamber's curtains were drawn, withholding starlight from the hotel room's dark corners. The covers were pulled up to Link's chin. Zelda and the others fled from his mind once he sat up. Tattle's light was slightly dulled as she rested on the bed beside his. He propped his pillow against the headboard and sat up. The remnants of his and Tattle's meal were gone now, likely picked up by the innkeeper. "Anju." She'd been in his dream, too. When Link and Tattle checked in, they'd done their best to interact with her as little as possible. "We couldn't," he thought. "It's too hard." "Tattle," he asked.
Yeah.
She answered, quicker than he'd expected. Can't sleep? Are you having bad dreams too?"
No dreams yet."
Tattle paused, as if waiting for the boy to say something else. He never did.
Last cycle was really stressful. It makes sense we're having trouble sleeping.
Yeah.
Freeing you from jail was hard, but that won't be anything compared to
killing Majora. Tattle grimaced.
I don't know what will happen, but I'm scared it's going to be the most terrible thing yet. We freed the giants, destroyed the Re-Dead mask, figured out the magic in your scar, and sealed Dark Link away. Shouldn't those have been the hard parts?
Waiting feels like the hardest part right now, Link said. I wish there was more we could do to help us against Majora. I hate just waiting for the tower to open.
Will the Skull Kid be there?
Tattle asked. I think so.
Him and that purple-eyed owl? Are we sure the giants will show up when we play their song?
No, but we have backups, Link said. The Fierce Deity and 2 light arrows, not to mention my ocarina and the Great Fairy's sword.
Will it be enough?
I don't know, Link answered. But it's more than we thought we'd have. Link and Tattle lay in silence after that, waiting for the second sunrise's arrival. This will be the last cycle. He knew. Their only objective was going to the top of the tower. It really is a countdown to the end this time.
Do you want to talk about after?
Tattle asked. After. If Tattle left Termina, she would die in a matter of days as a shadow bound by the Tree of Light. If Link stayed in Termina, he would slowly become a shadow until he lost his memories and was no different than any other citizen here. And what would happen if I returned to Hyrule? Link wondered. The masked salesman said that Majora was the only thing that could stop the Great Flood. What if he was right? Of course, Majora could always win. In that case, nothing they said now would matter.
I guess that's my answer,
Tattle said when he never replied.
We won't ever see each other again, will we, once this is over?
I don't know, Tattle, he replied. I don't want to leave you, but I think whatever happens on top of that tower will change our lives forever. I'm not sure we'll get a say in what comes next. Another moment of silence followed.
We should do something fun then.
Fun? Link asked.
Tomorrow, while we still can. If we're not going to spend this cycle chasing bad guys or reuniting lost lovers, then we should spend it together. and have some fun. Why not?
Link surprised himself by smiling. I assume you know how to have a good time in Clocktown?
Are you sure you don't want me to just fly overhead?
Tattle asked, nervously eyeing the timer that ticked above them.
No!
Link replied, laughing as he rounded another corner.
That'd be cheating!
Though whether that was him speaking or the milk, he couldn't say.
Ain't no cheating!
They heard the game attendant shout from over the stone walls. The maze was a massive compilation of barriers, zigzagging this way and that. The building itself was fashioned to look like a treasure chest, but within, it was a labyrinth of turns that hid a prize at its end.
Are you sure this is a game?
Tattle asked, hovering alongside him as they made another turn.
Because it's stressing me out.
You're the one who suggested it.
Link said, smiling as he ran over the floor, checkered white and black. They reached another fork in the maze and went left. The tall walls made up the bulk of the brown, arched building. Far behind them, the girl who owned the game shop kept barking orders from the counter.
40 seconds left.
This is the last time I ever take a recommendation from the frog choir.
Tattle said.
The frog choir.
Link hit a dead end and turned back around.
Why would frogs form a choir? And why would they know anything about games in Clocktown?
Why wouldn't they? Are you trying to imply what frogs can and cannot do?
Link sighed, slurring his words as he tried to run while intoxicated.
You can't keep messing with me unless you have free glasses of Chateau Romani, too.
That would kill me, Link. My stomach is the size of a human eyelash.
Gross. 30 seconds. Tattle, we've got to hurry.
Link urged them, abandoning his current path and going back for a right turn he'd overlooked.
Then how about I try leading the way?
Link stopped and almost fell over.
That's probably a good idea. 20 seconds.
Tattle zipped backward and recalled one set of paths they hadn't taken yet. Link did his best to follow from behind.
Left, back, right, left, right, forward.
Link, I found it!
There it was, the treasure chest. It sat at the end of one last corridor, and Link's eyes glowed with greed.
5, 4.
Link ran as fast as he could with Tattle hot on his heels.
3.
We're not gonna make it!
Tattle exclaimed.
2.
Jump for it!
1. Ding, 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 ding.
The moment the woman reached 0, the maze's stone walls slid into the floor. Link's arm was outstretched, fingers barely brushing the treasure chest. He panted, catching his breath and keeping his hand in place so the woman could see.
We did it! Oh my goddess, we did it!
Tattle exclaimed. She pointed empathetically at the chest and boy, making sure there was no room for debating their victory.
We get the prize!
I don't know. I think you were 3 milliseconds off.
The attendant yelled.
Wrong!
Tattle said.
I'm the judge.
And we paid you 10 rupees, so get over it.
Tattle eagerly turned back to the chest.
What's inside, Link?
He lifted the lid, but his smile faded as soon as he looked inside. A heart?
A heart?
A piece of heart.
The attendant said.
They say if you give 4 of those to your lover, they're yours forever.
Link lifted the small plastic heart from the treasure chest. It was silver, except at its very center, which was a smaller, redder heart.
Well, that's stupid,
Tattle said.
Well, I mean, you could choose to believe the other rumor instead.
The attendant said, still shouting from across the building.
They say 4 of those could cause the second heart to grow in your chest, and from that moment on, you'd hear 2 heartbeats, never in sync, thumping in your ears like a terrible curse, thumping like this, you know? Slowly but surely, that malignant heart would drive you insane, until you were frothing from the mouth and begging Nehru for death's release.
What in the name of din is wrong with you?
Tattle asked.
Now my brother Slop dropped me on my head when I was a baby.
Slarp! Again!
Tattle balked.
Let's get out of here, Link. We're taking that piece of heart with us.
But I don't want 2 hearts.
The third glass of milk seemed to have finally overpowered him.
I only need 1 to stab the demon with my sword.
Tattle sighed.
Oh, come on. I am never trusting a cheery band of singing frogs ever again.
The final sun's rays bathed all of Clocktown. Link and Tattle watched from the village's northern lawn, sitting together in the grass. There were no kids playing or masks to celebrate the carnival time. Everyone had fled. Ding-dong! The town bell, as always, cut through the 4 districts like a knife looking for blood. The moon neared the clock tower, which somehow seemed to make it all louder. Each ring chilled his bones. The sun was powerless to warm his skin. Link watched its golden fingers slip across the colorful canvas of sky. The ground shook, rattling all who stood below the power of Majora. Link felt Tattle tremble beside him. They watched the sunset together as she rested on his shoulder.
I'm scared, Link.
Tattle said. She did not look away from the horizon.
I don't want this to be the last time I ever see the sun.
Link's stomach sank. Tattle said the same thing on our first cycle here, he remembered. And that really was her last sunset. Tears brimmed in his eyes, but he refused to let Tattle see them. Please, he thought, don't let the same thing happen again. Dee-dong! The earthquake ended, but the sun kept slipping away. Link wanted to promise her that he would save her. He wanted to tell her that they would see the new day together and that Majora's mask would be destroyed. Your broken promise means nothing to us, Link, Zelda had said in his dream. Find the light in the dark, Link said, sniffling. Try to remember what the sun looks like. We'll need that memory later. Tattle tightened her arms around his shoulder and they greeted the final night. Dee-dong. The sun soon left the world in twilight, and from that moment on, the darkness only grew. For how long they sat there, Link couldn't say. If their time was measured in earthquakes, it was too later. If it was measured by how much light remained, it wasn't until all the stars twinkled out. The familiar glow of the violet-crimson sky reminded them that death was near again. All were suspended beneath its might, no matter what corner of Termina tried to offer protection. The moon's teeth remained bared. Its eyes were set on the final battle stage. Link stood, brushing himself off as Tattle fluttered out beside him. They walked across the field through the doorway and into the South Clocktown Plaza. 7:12, Link said. We still have 5 hours until the doors open. There was no one else in the plaza, save for a guard at the opposite end, so Tattle glowed brightly. She stared at the southern gate. Link almost asked why, but then he knew. Her eyes shone with a dark memory. Of a screaming boy. 2 cycles ago, Link had discovered that Tattle's journey through the Skull Kid's cave had ended with unimaginable horror. The imp had forced her to slay a child, which was the final step in a curse to summon the moon. But the boy could have just been an illusion. The imp could have been lying. Tattle knew where his house was. She'd simply never summoned the courage to see if there was an empty seat at his family's dinner table. We could go, Link said. We have enough time. Tattle hesitated.
But is it better to never know? What if I find out I really killed him?
Then you could give the family peace, Link said. They'll all die when the moon falls anyways, Link almost said. But that might not be true anymore. If everything went according to plan, they would finally win.
Will you come with me?
Tattle asked. Link smiled. Of course. The walk was long, and every time Link's boots crunched on the forest ground, her wings only shook more.
It's okay,
Tattle told herself.
It's going to be okay. Whatever you find out, it doesn't matter. What happened, happened. You can't change that. It wasn't your fault.
Yet she remembered his throat opening and the dark, metallic red spilling out. It felt so real. Tree branches swayed beneath the bruised sky. Leaves dotted their faces with shadow, and Tattle recalled the boy's directions to his house. Their walk through the cave had been long before it descended into insanity. He told her all about home.
How could he be a fake?
Tattle thought.
He seemed so real.
And yet, she hoped more than anything that the cave had merely been tricking her.
Light in the dark.
Tattle thought.
Light in the dark.
I'm right here, Tattle, he said.
I know,
she said weakly. She had no idea how the first Tattle summoned the courage to do this, especially alone. She wondered if going to check was sealing her fate to end up the same way as her predecessor. Dead.
Don't be stupid,
she told herself.
It doesn't make any sense.
Tattle flew on slowly through the dense trees alongside the dirt road. Then she saw it. There was a faint glow ahead, just off the path and slightly obstructed by a tree.
A window.
Tattle's heart skipped a beat.
Link,
she whispered.
I don't know about this anymore. Every time we've gotten an answer before, it's been bad news. What's going to make this any different?
You're finding out for yourself, Link said. And no matter what the answer is, it won't change anything, Tattle. The closure is there, if you want it.
Tattle faced the distant window again. She took in a deep breath and then approached the house alone. It was a small wooden cabin. The stone chimney rose at its side and released a thin stream of smoke. The windows were warm, flooded with candlelight.
There's a family in there,
she knew. The house was exactly as the little boy had described.
It's not far from Termina Field,
the boy had explained, shaking beside her as they walked through the cave.
Just off the path, leading through the forest. Papa always has a fire going. It's fun to play in the trees, too. Sounds like it,
Tattle had said, as she'd floated by his side. She'd been trying to keep him calm as the Skull Kid walked solemnly ahead.
Tell me more about it. We have a big dinner table in the middle of the room.
Tattle neared the window, still shaking as she passed the last tree.
Mama cooks us a meal every night, and my sister likes rabbit soup the best.
The light was too bright to make out the people inside from far away. She drew herself closer to the glass.
I just want to go back home. I don't want to go to the end of this cave.
Inside, his words came to life. Fire danced in a stone hearth, warming the small abode and all within. The table took up a decent chunk of the room, surrounded by a family enjoying a meal. A small girl broke a piece of bread from the loaf and took a bite as her mother laughed at a joke. The window stifled their words, but Tattle was content to only see. The mother stopped laughing and turned to the chair beside her. In it sat a boy. He was exactly as she remembered. His short red hair and freckled face beamed, taking in his food with happy eyes. The mother and father would occasionally exchange a worried glance as if in response to the impending doom outside, but the children were unaware of the danger. The boy only smiled, and in her head, she could still hear his voice. The cave had drawn memories from a real boy to create the powerful illusion, but the image of the bloody dagger in her hand faded.
It wasn't me,
Tattle realized.
Another spell must have caused the moon to fall.
Tattle drew her face away from the window. She flew back the way she came and found Link standing by the tree. His brow was scrunched in concern, but that changed when he saw her smile. Tattle cried, finally releasing the horrible burden of the crime she never committed.
It wasn't me,
she said as Link embraced her.
It wasn't me.
Link and Tattle stood in the center of the plaza when the clock struck midnight. Ding! Fireworks popped brilliantly around the clock tower. The reds, greens, and blues were bright. Despite their pleas for a cheering audience and the wide eyes of awed children, their only response was silence. Link, Tattle, Muto, and the guard were the only witnesses. The spotlight atop the clock tower rose, traveling on a wooden beam extending from the roof. It came just short of the moon. When it reached its maximum height, the extended lighthouse tottered as if it would snap off and crash to the ground. A small earthquake started at the same time, dangerously teetering the clock tower's head. When the quake ended, the stone ball fell over, coming down so that the wooden clock face aimed at the sky. It stopped when it was exactly parallel. The massive wheel of time was now the roof. The doorway above the clock tower's entrance had been revealed. Its doors slid down, revealing yet another door slightly higher. The procession of doors kept falling until each, slightly higher than the last, made a staircase that cut upward through the tower. It led to the new clock tower roof, open to the sky and directly beneath the moon. The fireworks stopped. The carnival of time had arrived. Link and Tattle remained standing there, staring upward. Muto stood just behind them, watching with his arms crossed. Link ignored him and stared at the moon instead. He returned his gaze. The time was no longer visible on the clock tower because it no longer mattered. "Time's up," Link thought. Link slipped his hand into his bag and retrieved a shard of wood. He looked up to the ground-level set of clock tower doors, which the wood had been cut from. He'd reverted to the first day 12 times, and those doors had been the portal back to Hyrule all along. He held the one key to returning. The shard was warm, just like the doors themselves. "It's not too late to turn back," Link thought.
You could look at Hyrule again,
Tattle said. She left out something else, as if giving him permission to abandon his quest altogether, but both of them knew that he would never make that choice. "No," Link said, slipping the shard back into his bag. "I can't risk it not working when I try to come back." Dee-dong! The town bell continued to ring, even though the carnival was already there. He walked to the clock tower without another word. Tattle followed as they rounded the side and walked along the ledge to the upper platform. Link climbed onto it. The staircase cut upward, surrounded by dark stone on either side. As he took the first step, Link saw the final night's glow at its end. He kept walking, passing over the ancient wooden steps. The plaza continued to fall away as the top of the clock tower drew nearer. 5 steps in, however, Link stopped. He placed his hand on the wall to steady himself. He almost fell, turning away from the staircase's end. "Tattle," Link said quietly. I don't want to die. I'm scared." He thought of all the people he'd seen lose their lives, and he heard the beating of his own heart. It kept going, regardless of the footsteps taking it to his greatest battle yet.
I'm scared too, Link.
"But how am I supposed to fight Majora if I'm so afraid?" Link asked. "I've never been this scared before. Twin Mold, Sagan, Dark Link, Ganon, all of them were different. I feel like we're fighting death itself. Majora's everything I've ever been afraid of." Tattle's eyes reflected back the hope and fear battling within him.
Just remember what the Great Fairy and the Grey Witch said. Find the light.
Link's hand instinctively went to the pocket on his belt, which held his ocarina. "Its magic is still inside my chest, mixed with Majora's." The sword on his back was a champion of the light as well, and when he turned back to Tattle, he realized something else. Majora may be the embodiment of darkness, but Tattle is the embodiment of light. She was a shade cast by the Tree of Light, come to join him in the great duel. "Tattle," Link said, "I love you. You're kind and brave and fearless, and you deserve an easier, happier life than this. I'm sorry you have to come up here with me, but I'm so happy I met you. I'm so happy I trapped you in that bottle. I never would have healed from all the pain in my life without you. You're the reason I can still smile. You're the reason I'm still alive." The fairy did not fight back her tears. She smiled.
I love you too, Deku Head. You're the reason I finally feel real, like I'm more than a shadow. And we'll have that easier, happier life to look forward to together. I know it. There are still so many adventures waiting for us.
Tattle extended her hand.
Come on, Link, before this mushy-gushy nonsense makes me want to vomit all over the stairs.
The fairy's small hand wrapped around one of the boy's fingers. He could feel her shaking despite the smile on her face. Link and Tattle walked to the top of the tower together.
Hi, this is the author, FakeJake93, and I wanted to take a moment to say goodbye to you all, our listeners and readers. Late one night, procrastinating on AP US History homework over 15 years ago, I thought of a more dramatic final night for Link and wrote what eventually became chapters 1 through 6. But I didn't stop there, and I never imagined what kind of monster this story would turn into. Thank you to anyone that listened to a chapter, subscribed to the channel, or left a note. I'm in a little bit of shock that I've finally revised it and that it's done for good. I'll miss it. Thank you for taking the time to immerse yourself in a world that means everything to me. And thank you to CaroCabaConiVO for your incredible voice acting over so many years. I can't imagine Link or Tattle with any other voice now. You're truly talented, and I hope this is only the start of your voice acting career. Dragonrand, your dedication to these projects, it means more than I could ever really say. You do so much audio editing and add so much music and life to these chapters, and you brought the story to life in a way I didn't think was possible. So thank you for reaching out about this project all those years ago. There are only 6 chapters left. I've read many endings, but I really liked what Stephen King had to say about one of his. You say you want to know how it all comes to an end. You say you want to follow your hero into the tower, the show you came to see. I hope most of you know better, want better. I hope you came to hear the tale and not just munch your way to the ending. For an ending, you only have to turn to the last page and see what is writ upon. But endings are heartless. An ending is a closed door no person can open. Ending is just another word for goodbye. Stephen King, The Dark Tower. And saying goodbye is quite bittersweet. I hope you enjoy listening to it as much as I did writing it.